on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. According to the internet, we are live.
Wow,
Awesome.
amazing.
Exciting.
I'll try to control myself.
Awesome. Just so you know, my lovely panelists, co-conspirators, there will be some comments and there'll be some viewers that will be able to see on here, but not everything, because I'm not quite sure how all this works out in the end. So just, I don't even actually know what you see on your screen. Anyway, I see that people are joining us. So hello, hello. And good evening and good morning to you. We're just gonna...
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
We're gonna chat for like 30 seconds. And by chat, I mean I'm gonna make noises at the camera and give people time to chime in. Maybe tell us where you're joining us from, guys, like people who are on the panel. Tracy, where are you right now?
I'm currently in Toronto, Canada. I normally live in Vancouver, BC, also in Canada, but I'm on vacation here, which is great.
You mean Toronto?
I'm on vacation in Toronto, where it is raining.
Toronto, not Toronto.
Toronto. I'm trying to be correct. But yeah, Toronto.
Okay, got it. Smita, where are you?
Hi everyone. I'm joining from Bangalore, India. That's where I stay.
Sweet.
Hello.
And Ujjwal?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks, Magda. I'm joining from Baroda in the western part of India.
Excellent. Lovely. Before we get started, Smita, I have a small request. Sorry, I have to ask you on camera. Would you mind muting yourself when you're not speaking? Because I think there's some feedback. The others have headphones. So I think it's from your computer.
I will wear my headphones.
Awesome. Thank you, Smita. Okay, well, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this little impromptu, not a webinar thing, whatever we're doing. We just figured we would start doing a little more of this kind of stuff because there are things that we want to communicate that don't necessarily fit into a whole hour webinar format. And this seems like a good idea. So here we are. Thanks to those of you who are watching live, and thank you to all of you who are watching this later because we are recording. And if there are specific topics, especially foundational coaching or leadership topics that you want to hear about, please email us. Let us know in comments because we're happy to talk. If you want to listen, we will talk to you, with you, at you. And on that note, today's topic for our first group live thingy is live coaching versus executive coaching. And is it a versus or is it a slash? I don't know. But today we will find out, because a lot of people do one or both of these things as a profession, life coaching or executive coaching. And depending on your background, your path to the world of coaching, you may or may not have some clarity around that, both in terms of what it is, but also in terms of what you want to do with your coaching career. So, Coacharya is a coach training institute, among many other things. And one of the biggest questions that we get from prospects is, oh, well, can I do life coaching after this course? Or can I do executive coaching? And the answer is always yes, you can do any coaching, because coaching is coaching. But the reality is that there's a different perception of the two. And there are some, subtleties and approaches, etc. And there's potentially different tools, for lack of a better word, that you can deploy depending on the coaching situation. But does that necessarily differ between executive or life, or is it just person to person? We'll find out today. So joining me on this panel, I shouldn't say forming this panel, because I'm just here for comic relief and to ask questions and to look at the chat. Hi, everyone. Thanks for saying hi. So on the panel today, we have Ujjwal, Smita, and Tracy, all three of whom are credentialed coaches and trainers with Coacharya, and they have very different backgrounds and very different clientele. And in Ujjwal's case, I keep thinking you're like 35, Ujjwal. I don't even actually know how old you are. I don't think I want to know how old you are, because in my mind, you've been a coach since you were born. So Ujjwal's been coaching since he was in the crib. And he's been working with a lot of executives and companies around the world. I'm honestly like flabbergasted every time he brings up some client, and I'm just like, Ujjwal, you're pretty cool. So Ujjwal's job here today is to help us understand the executive coaching side of things. And Smita and Tracy both trained with us, actually in the same cohort, I think, started and then changed. Yeah. So both Smita and Tracy are Coacharya alumni, and they both train with Coacharya and work with Coacharya in different capacities. And in a couple of weeks, they are starting their first coach training program together, and they'll be focused on life coaching. So if that wasn't exciting enough, today they're representing the life side of things. So coaches like to listen. So these three, I'm going to call on you. And I also want you to jump in with answers. None of this, I'm going to sit back and listen to others only, okay? All right, cool. And Tracy's going to go first because she's the only one unmuted. So that's what's happening.
Boy.
Yeah. Let's start with a very, very basic question. What is coaching?
Oh, well, as per the ICF, it's, let me see if I can remember this, partnering with clients in a creative process that helps them maximize their personal and professional potential.
Now in English, please.
So I think there's a few really important words there. The first one being the partnering aspect. And that's because even when I came into coach training, I thought coaching was more of a guiding, leading, advice giving process. And I remember being both surprised and actually a little bit afraid when I found out that it's more this partnering thing, and that we wouldn't actually be giving advice. I'm like, what do you mean we're just mostly asking questions and listening? But that's really, I think, one of the most beautiful and magical things about coaching is that really, as coaches, we believe that the clients have the answers, and that we hold them in this space of unconditional positive regard that we talk about a lot, which also includes that belief or that sort of generative vision that not only do they have the answers, and not only will they be able to state their goals, but they're going to be able to achieve them as well.
Ujjwal, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think very beautifully mentioned by Tracy, and just one point to add to the expression is about that as a coach, and I will not go by the ICF definition.
Sorry, Ujjwal, sorry to interrupt you.
That.
Could you adjust your microphone? You're kind of going in and out.
Oh, okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So coaching is about somebody who walks along with you, believes in with you with unconditional positive regard, non-judgmental approach, and ensures a lot of psychologically safe space, and see where you want to reach, and work with you to reach there. So that's the simple understanding of coaching that I have over 10 years.
10 years. I thought it was 35.
Yes.
Smita, anything else to add?
Yeah, so I would say that, this is also a process to provoke the thoughts. On a lighter note, like I just read this somewhere and it just stuck with me is, you can't tickle yourself as well as the other person can. So it's like, the questions asked by the other land us in a challenging way, and it makes us to think beyond. So I think it's an empowering process. It's like I never knew till I was introduced to coaching that the answers lie within us. I was always, thinking that the answers are outside, always looking for some kind of a validation. Little knowing then that the validation, the thoughts, the answer to every unanswered question is within.
Love that. So, based on the definition of coaching, it sounds like anyone can be benefited by coaching and anyone can get something out of coaching. So yes, nods, yeah. So if that's true, why is life coaching separate from executive coaching? Or is it? Are executives not people too? Ujjwal?
Okay. Yeah. So Magda, yes, just one more addition to what you mentioned earlier, that anyone can be benefited by coaching, and anyone, can get coaching. I would just add one more thing to it, is that anyone who seeks coaching will be benefited by it, because coaching is something which cannot be sold. It is always bought.
Mm.
So unless you seek it, you will not get benefited, right? So it's your urge, your thirst that will take you to the places, and coach will accelerate or catalyze that process.
Mm.
Okay. And answering your next question about, I think sometimes I also doubt that what is this executive coaching and life coaching, and I believe that all it's all one is, it's a niche that we identify. So if I am coaching corporate executives, it's executive coaching. So they come with some specific challenges which is related to performance or their behavior or transition, all of that. But in my experience, if coaching ultimately has to be successful, it has to be coached, and the person has to be coached, not the designation. So if I'm coaching a CEO, I'm not coaching that CEO. I may start with coaching the CEO, but ultimately, coaching has to go towards the person who is in the chair of a CEO. So the moment it touches their aspirations, their fears, their concerns, their values and beliefs, and their purpose, the moment those elements I start working on or working with, it becomes life coaching. So every coaching ultimately becomes life coaching, and I think you might like to explore with this experts that we have today, that then what is life coaching.
Okay, can I just add in my thoughts here? So, I executive coaching. What I feel is it's like, it doesn't start until and unless you become an executive, right? You need to reach to that level, and then an executive coaching process can start. But I think life coaching is something which is not going by the designation, which is not going by your age or anything else. There is no boundary. It can start as early as in the childhood. Like when we were children, I think we were always looking at and counting on someone who we would take advice from, not calling that as our life coach or something, but then taking advice, right? Though they might not be skilled enough to take a position of a coach, it might more be like a mentor, but then that would help us when we were just growing up, maybe. So I think life coaching is a broader perspective. It includes, it's a broader horizon. It includes executive coaching as well.
Yeah, that's what came up for me as well. It's definitely not something I see as separate. It's rather, it's like when we talk about work-life integration, right? And why it's not work-life balance. They're not two separate things. You're bringing your life into your work, and you're bringing your work into your life, and ultimately you are the same person going into either one of those spaces. So life and executive coaching, I see it as rather, it's a case of zooming in or zooming out. So maybe when you start with executive coaching, you're starting off with a very specific area, and then you're zooming out to the whole person of the client. And then perhaps when you're starting with life coaching, you're looking at it from a broader perspective and then zooming in on certain challenge areas that a client has, which could also include their career as well.
So something that's coming up for me is actually an experience that I witnessed someone else have with coaching. And this person was an executive. And I remember how he would cancel his sessions all the time because it looked to me, at least, that he felt like he was being pressured into it, or that it was homework, or that it wasn't. I don't think he ever got to the point where he realized that this is for his benefit. And like Ujjwal said in the beginning, like, you need to want to be coached. If you don't want to be there, you need to seek coaching out. And this person, I'm not even sure if he was not seeking coaching, maybe just was the wrong coach. But it makes me think about that kind of maybe being a difference also between life coaching and executive coaching, where with life coaching, it's usually no one's forcing you into it. But for better or worse, sometimes companies still use coaching as a punishment or a reward. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but I know that it happens. So I'm curious, Ujjwal, do you encounter that a lot? And would you agree with my assessment that executive coaching sometimes tends to be forced upon people?
Yeah, yeah, you're so right, Magda, because what happens is that sometimes coaching in many of the clients, corporate sponsors that I have seen, it is offered as a remedial measure, and especially for achieving any behavioral goals, behavioral outcomes. Say somebody is a very alpha manager kind of a person, and organization wants him or her to be less angry, while the behavior could be very different, and the person is in denial mode. A sales head says that okay, so the very reason that the kind of targets that are given to us, if I don't pressurize my people, if I don't shout at them, they are not going to achieve it. And now you want me to drop that behavior and still want me to achieve those outcomes? I'm not going to get into coaching. So that's where it starts in 7 out of 10 situations. And these remaining three are genuine developmental agenda that the organization has. And now I'm seeing that the trend is changing. So I'm hoping to see that at least 8 out of 10 coaching propositions are not remedial, but they are future focused and developmental. So yeah, I tend to agree with you what you've just mentioned.
Okay. I just had this perspective. Thank you, Ujjwal, for sharing, because I was actually just thinking that, executive coaching is something which is like, more for the elite class. It's like, it's a sponsor by the organization, right? So you are already performing better, and in order for them to perform much better, an executive coach is hired for the leader. Whereas when we see in the case of life coaching, I still see that social stigma that people are not very, openly sharing that I have a life coach, right? So it's like having a life coach is like moving from a negative place to something which is positive. Whereas in case of executive coach, what my thoughts were that you're already performing better, and that's why the company is sponsoring you. You're a high potential leader already, and
Yeah.
now you are, you want to move up a notch.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the way it is presented also that makes a difference. So what I am increasingly, working with sponsors, that even though it is remedial, but it is ultimately the idea is to take something to the next level, right? So how do you present that? So executive coaching, you also need to work on a lot of strategic communication. That how are you presenting that, coaching? How are you offering that to the executive? Is it something like you want to correct something, or just if this is worked on, this much is benefit? So those nuances we need to work. Also, one of the difference that we see is that in executive coaching there is a sponsor and the client. Whereas in life coaching, you directly have a client to work with. So, yeah, Tracy.
Yeah, I want to jump on what you said there about how you present it, because I think that's important in life coaching as well. We have to be aware that a client's not going to feel like, okay, I'm not able to manage my life, therefore I need a life coach.
Yeah.
But rather, it's more, I think especially the last couple of years have illustrated how uncertain life is, how many transitions people are going through, or perhaps somebody just wants to make a complete pivot with their life. And that's where having somebody that can help them by actually listening to them, by actually believing in them and helping them set their goals and reach them. And I think that's where it's really important for clients to know, even though they're sometimes intimidated by that, that really they have the answers. So it's not that there's something wrong with them that they need to seek out a coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think is driving all this? Because kind of what I'm hearing is we have executive coaching, and you know, whether it's true or not, it's kind of true. But a lot of executive coaches, you know, they're not cheap. So there's actual monetary value placed on what an executive coach does and what an executive coach can help facilitate in the company or in the leaders that they are coaching. So there's already some sort of, you know, value placed on the coach and the coaching by the company, or at least by the sponsor of the coaching. And then there needs to be, whether it's, you know, remedial or whether it's a reward, there needs to be some value that the person being coached also places in the coaching. So already you have, you know, the coach, the sponsor, and the client placing value on the coaching. And we just also learned that eventually all coaching becomes life coaching. Ipso facto, there's value on life coaching, right? But that's on the executive side. And on the life side, you just said that people, like, they're embracing it more now, but they are reluctant. No one goes, oh, I need a life coach to get over this. Why do you think that is? Why is it acceptable that in a work setting, it makes sense, but in a life setting, it's like, oh, I'm not going to really talk about the fact that I have a life coach because it's potentially, I don't know, what?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Tracy, go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. Okay. So, in the case of executive coaching, maybe, you know, the goal, the executive might come with a goal that, say, for example, I want to gain the confidence of my team, or I want to gain the trust of my team. And while in the coaching session and drilling down further, it might just lead to a point where listening to the team is what the leader needs to do in order to gain the trust of the team. So in the executive setup, the executive will not, maybe not say this statement that I want to learn to listen better. The ultimate objective is actually to gain the trust of the team. Whereas in case of the life coach, in a life coaching setup, maybe the goal is that, you know, I want to have better relationship with my kids, or something like that, or with parents, or with spouse or partner, where the person might just come and say that, you know, I want to learn listening better. That might just help me to, you know, have better relationships.
So it sounds like you're saying in life coaching, it's like you're potentially admitting your own shortcomings, and that might not feel so great, versus in executive coaching, it goes back to how you presented, right, Tracy and Ujjwal, like you both said earlier. It's in executive coaching, it sounds like it's easier to show that there's this goal versus a correction that's happening. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, so it's that's absolutely the fair summary. It's like, you know, in the executive space, it has to be put, the goal statement has to be put in favor of the larger ecosystem. So it's not just for the person, the ecosystem for the executive is the team, the organization vision. Whereas in case of life coaching, the ecosystem is around the person and maybe the personal setup. And maybe that just allows them to be more vulnerable to just say that, I want to get the listening skills better.
Yeah. Tracy, you're nodding.
Yeah, I'm nodding because I like what you're saying, the ecosystem being set up around the person. And yet sometimes I find even in life coaching, people will come with a very specific idea of what they want to address and then adjust to the fact that we're kind of expanding outward as to how that's showing up in other parts of their life. And so, but I like what you said about it not being a correction. Like, I think that is something that would be helpful as information gets out there about what coaching is, that it's not, it's not like there's something wrong with you. People may be good with finances and yet they're going to hire a financial advisor to help them. So I realize that we're not in an advice role, but the point is that we look to reach out to people to guide us or partner with us or assist us in all these different areas. And as we know, we as coaches all get coached. So I think it's a case of positioning it to people. And I think that I've had some of my clients that have come to coaching because they're reading books and they're realizing that there are thought leaders out there that all have coaches. And so they can see the benefit of that. And these are people that have previously tried therapy, which is about fixing something that's wrong, and realized that wasn't for them and that they rather wanted to partner with a coach to learn and be able to expand their skills.
Yeah, coaching is all about future focus and moving forward versus looking back. So I do actually want to get into the process of life coaching, but there's a, sorry, Smita, your clicking is very audible, just FYI.
Uh-oh.
So whatever you're clicking, please don't. Thank you, sorry. I do want to get into a couple of questions on here. So for Ujjwal, perhaps what you could do is describe the process that would happen during an executive coaching engagement, especially from the perspective of interacting with the client, but yeah, starting with the sponsor, etc. Because, there's a question earlier, in executive coaching, there is an expectation by the sponsor for certain results. However, in coaching, we have this disclaimer that the coach is not responsible for the results. So how do we reconcile that? And I think that's super, super relevant in executive coaching. So can you talk us through this, and then we'll jump into the pattern of life coaching?
Sure, Magda, and I'll be happy to respond to that. See, the process of executive coaching starts much before actually you meet with the client, right? So there is somebody who has identified the need that, okay, this executive needs to be coached for either the business outcomes or either the behavioral outcomes or transitioning. Somebody's identified for the next level and you transition them, or somebody who also I coach a lot around these days on helping leaders get assimilated with the team. Okay, so those kind of stuff also is coming up significantly now. So you meet with so somebody sends the requirement and then you are shortlisted and the requirements are given to you, and then you discuss with the sponsors. So when I say sponsors, who all are there? So generally, is it somebody who is in charge of executive coaching? I think we haven't evolved to a level as yet where you have a chief learning officer, but you do not have a chief coaching officer. So I think we all of us need to create that positive pressure so that we derives we are able to propagate the real benefits of coaching, so that companies end up appointing chief coaching officer. So currently, let's settle with chief learning officer. So chief learning officer and somebody, the HR business partner of that person's department, and the reporting manager of the client. So you start discussing with them, you identify, then we work with them on, okay, so these are the goals that you want them to work on, but have you really communicated to them? Are they aware that they need to work on? So they shouldn't be feeling that they are being brought into a lab and something will happen on them. So it's not a surgery or something like that is going to happen on them. It's a very, very generative and co-creative process. So then we need to do some, education there, and literacy sometimes needs to be created. And then we meet with the client. Now, one of the things that I would like to highlight here with all the coaches here with us today, that people straight away go into chemistry session with the client. And many a times I have realized that there is a huge communication gap about the goals that the client need to work on, especially the context and why part of it. At least that is what I have seen in India happening, and with some other countries outside as well. So what is told to us as remedial or as a reward may be shown to them as remedial or shown to them as reward. And then coach gets stuck because there is a very different picture with the client, very different picture with the coach. So I have I have worked that with many clients in last 4 or 5 years, and it has worked very well. We call it handover session, okay, where all the people, the manager, the client, the sponsors, other representative, chief learning officer, they all come for say half an hour meeting in which they would initiate the context that this is what we want you to work on this, and apart from that you can also have some other goals that you would like to work on, but this is what we have identified for you, and these are the sources. So is there any psychometric assessment, is there any 360-degree feedback, is there any special off the line feedback that is received? But all of that is conveyed by them, and everybody is in know of the thing. So once the communication loop is closed there, then they move out, and in the same session or in subsequent session, coach and client go for a chemistry meeting in which the entire exchange, it's about getting to know each other, what is coaching, what coaching is not, and all that stuff is discussed, and really the chemistry is set up. And maybe then you set the goals and measures of success and all of that and move forward.
And when it comes to the number of sessions, is that usually something that is predetermined at the beginning, or is it an ongoing engagement with executive coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. So usually, uh, so everybody knows that it has to be long term, but corporate executives either live month by month or quarter by quarter, right? So for coaching also, organizations many a times just say that we want 3 sessions or 6 sessions, but I really don't know is that going to yield any results. But sometimes coaches also do not highlight. They say that okay, 3 sessions, 6 sessions, okay, we are okay with that, and they just go with the flow. But I believe that we have a responsibility, moral responsibility, that looking at the goals that organization wants to work on, we need to somewhere say that okay, we may say work for, so I typically feel that 12 sessions is something that minimum one should work on, and also have a contractual arrangement where you can have a possibility of extension so that you don't have to go back and redo the agreement. So
And
12
renegotiate.
plus 4, yeah, 12 plus 4 kind of a stuff that works well. And initially, you may start with, say, once in a week, because they also want to get into the action journey. They also need to get into the habit. And then one can move to a fortnightly or even a monthly session.
Mm. And that sounds like when it becomes a bit more like life coaching, you kind of go from the mindset of month to month or quarter, and what are the,
Yes.
I'm guessing tied to what's the company at large doing, how's the team performing, how much money's coming in, versus in life coaching is the personal progress.
Yes, and also on that note, Magda, if I may share, although we have experts here like Smita and Tracy, but on life coaching, what I have experienced in whatever experience I have is that clients do not seek proactively. Although the trend has been changing, maybe I shouldn't say thanks to COVID, but somewhere COVID triggered that need
Mm.
to bring some proactivity in life. Otherwise, people come to, instead of going to a therapist or a counselor, they approach a life coach just because it has less stigma attached to it.
Yeah,
So they only
definitely.
come when it is extremely intensive care kind of a situation, and then they seek a coach.
Mm.
So then it automatically becomes a corrective measure.
Now, I think that's the one of the blessings of COVID is that people are a bit more accepting of coaching, but also
Yes.
realizing that, yes, you can be proactive. And even if you're not being proactive, perhaps they're also realizing that there's some things that I don't know if I can do alone, but someone, helping me, guiding me along, like being next to me might actually be helpful. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. On that
Uh,
note, Tracy, do you want to jump in and tell us kind of I know you've taken on quite a few new clients in the past year during this COVID era. Do you want to walk us through the steps that you experience with a life coaching engagement?
Yeah, I do. And I wanted to just say, when you were talking about COVID, what came up for me is I think what really helped, one of the good things that has come out of this, and there are good things that have come out of, there's good things that come out of everything, is the understanding of the importance of mental health. And I think the eroding of the stigma around it, and also there is a feeling of, as divided, and there is a lot of division right now, and we're seeing it more and more, I think, in Canada and the US particularly at the moment. But there is an understanding that all of us are going through a tremendous amount of challenge and change right now. Whereas before, I think if you were going through a personal transition, let's say you're going through a divorce or you lost your job or that type of thing, it was very personal, right? And with the situation that's happening right now, there's a lot of people that are seeking different careers. There's a lot of people that are having life changes. There's relationships that are shifting. And so there is an understanding that a lot of people are dealing with these types of challenges. And so you were asking me about my own experience, and with the clients that I've had, we have...
Sorry, and not necessarily just COVID, but in general. COVID is just the catalyst. But, in general, if you can walk us through the life coaching process when you're engaging with a client.
Yes, absolutely. So similarly, there's always a chemistry meeting. That would happen right from the start, and that helps determine how we fit. We talk. I find that for myself, that's probably the most that I end up speaking because I'm sharing my background, the client is sharing theirs. We're getting to know each other. It's almost like a first date, in a strange way. And then we're also at that point talking about goals, looking at what the overall plan is for coaching. And that's usually for me when we start looking at how many sessions the client is looking for. And it's not as rigid as it would be or not rigid, but it's not as predetermined necessarily as it would be in the executive space. It does depend on what their goals are, but in general, as we all know, even though we can attain shifts within each coaching session, generally a series of sessions are what are needed to work towards larger goals. I've also had an engagement by an organization for coaching their clients. So actually, it's not executive coaching. It was a recognition by this organization of what was going on for everyone with COVID and with all the changes that were coming up. And so they offered them as a part of their corporate wellness commitment coaching sessions. And so in that situation, it was 3 sessions, and then the clients had the option to continue on beyond that, which some of them did. And so speaking to that, I think that there is a tremendous amount of potential, especially as more and more organizations are starting to realize the importance of wellness, for life coaching to be a part of that. So it doesn't just need to be about executive coaching. At that point in time, organizations may be looking at holistically wanting their employees to be experiencing a certain amount of wellness, and that doesn't just need to encompass what an organizational goal is.
Smita, did you want to add something? Because I have another question. Okay, go.
Yeah. So Tracy mentioned about organization, and I just wanted to relate to the small programs, right? Like earlier, executive coaching is only for the top performers. Now from Coacharya, we are doing this manager as a coach kind of a program, which is actually it is a replacement of life coaching skills. So everybody in the organization need not become a credentialed coach only. Having managers as coaches to learn the coach skills for their teams, for themselves, I think that is really serving the organization. So I would just when Tracy mentioned about the organization piece, I think now organizations are picking up and realizing that it's so important to move this skill from top to bottom, not just keep it at the top level.
Or middle out even. So there's actually a relevant question. I just stuck it on the screen. As a result of executive being coached, there is a possibility that the executive realizes that his or her values do not align with that of the companies, leading to attrition. How do we handle this? And what Smita just said about training managers into coaching, and we talked about goals of the organization. This seems like this could cause a pretty major conflict. And on one hand, the company's paying for the executive coaching, but because all coaching is becoming life coaching eventually, there could be a disconnect. So what do we do? Ujjwal, have you encountered that before?
Oh, yes, Magda, and this is a great question from Rajiv. I would like to compliment him for such a brilliant point. All I can tell you is this, okay, what he has mentioned is the fact, okay, and you need to align that with the organization. So in my conversations, and I also put that in writing with the organization, that there is a clear understanding that you are the sponsor, but my primary loyalty will be to my client. Okay. And as a result of coaching, because I wouldn't coach just at a surface level that you have asked that you work with him on so and so goals, and it just we go from session to session and something is achieved, but I'm going to coach the person at a deeper level, and we do not know what will emerge. Because as you know, Magda, that if you have to find pearls, you have to dive deeper in the ocean. So somebody's heart and mind is like ocean, and I would be just helping that person to dive deeper. And as a result of that, there may be a possibility that something may emerge and the person might quit, or person might stay on even if you don't want to, because that's how he might discover his love and affection for the organization more than how you have loved and have shown your affection to him or her. So any such intended or unintended consequences, we may have to factor that in, and you tell me whether you are okay with that, then only I will start my process. So that coach wouldn't be blamed later that as a result of coaching. And in fact, let me tell you this, and I'm very mindful of what I'm saying on the recording, that in last year, 6 of my coaching clients have quit the organization, and you know that a lot of work that you get in coaching is through reference. So I also have got a couple of negative references that they wanted to hire me, but they said that if you hire Ujjwal as a coach, maybe the executive might just leave. So be careful. So you have to just take that in your stride. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
one need to
tough.
be very, yeah, absolutely. But this and by the way, this is my in my coaching practice in the 10th year, I have realized that unless you insulate all these things right in the beginning, it's very easy to blame the coach. Because as Rajiv also has mentioned earlier, that as coaches, organizations think that they have outsourced the job of developing the executive to a coach, and a
Mm.
manager continues to behave brutally with the client, and coach brought in, and nobody else needs to do anything differently, but bringing a coach is like a magic wand. So we need to also, as coaches, it is our responsibility morally that we need to tell them what is right and what is not right in the beginning.
So what's coming up for me, I think, is as we're talking about, the difference between, or not difference between, life coaching and executive coaching. We say that there's an ABC in coaching: always be contracting, right?
Yeah,
And it sounds like with life coaching, of course, ABC applies, but it's with the client. Whereas in executive coaching, there's a whole bunch of ABCs that are happening,
yeah.
especially at the beginning, but then throughout, with the sponsor, with the organization, with the client, with all of them. So it just sounds like maybe executive coaching ends up being a bit more complex because of that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And what happens that I also have seen, as our dear friend Pat. Thank you, Pat, for being with us today. As always, he expressed so beautifully that it's also about you as a coach. How much do we go beyond the call of duty? So if you encounter that somebody has some challenge, which is a personal challenge, and it is affecting somebody's work, then is there a way that you offer yourself that, okay, I can work with you on your relationship goals, your work life balance goals, and all of that? So it may be like going beyond what is itemized in the
Mm.
invoice, but can one or two goals can be picked up, which actually I have seen that brings great stickiness to the whole coaching process, that you work on the executive coaching agenda, working on some professional goals, but also let them pick up some of the individual goals, personal goals, so that engagement to coaching becomes amazing.
So, on this note of going beyond the call of duty, I do want to hear from all three of you about your personal experiences.
Yeah,
So, in we have this Hollywood image of therapy, right? You go to the office, it's usually nice, there's a couch, you're sitting down, and there's the therapist with, his glasses, takes them down, taking notes, right? That's a therapist. There's no such thing as an image of a coach. And what I found fascinating is, I think when I came into coaching, I thought it was very similar, and I know it's not. But one thing that I found really dissimilar was that lack of taking notes. I know that some coaches do, but as we train, at least at Coacharya, you should be focusing on the client. That's what you're there
yeah,
for. You're not there to be reflecting in your own mind and jotting down notes. You're there for the client, so you should be listening.
yeah,
And so, a couple questions around this life coaching versus executive coaching. In life coaching, you're responsible, you're accountable to your client. In executive coaching, you have the company, the sponsor, and the client, at least, if not more. So I would assume that in executive coaching, you do need to take some notes. You do need to report back a little bit. And I'm guessing there are boundaries that maybe aren't there in life coaching. So I first want to hear actually about that, Ujjwal, if you could maybe talk about that. And from all three of you, I wanted to ask about this idea of, beyond the call of duty. I mean, what is your duty as far as the executive coaching? What is your duty as a life coach? And, what other things do you do, whether you like it or not, beyond the call of duty? At the end of the day, everyone gets paid by the hour, by the engagement, right? We're coaches are not NGOs. We're hired by a client. So, again, back in movies, the therapist has the clock, 4:00, and goes, okay, our time is up for today. See you later. And, the episode moves on. What's that like in coaching?
Okay. All right. So, Tracy, Smitha, would you like to go first with that life coaching question, and then we come to executive coaching? Or you want me to go first?
I can go.
Tracy's jumping in. Go.
I'll jump in. So there's a few things here. You were talking about, first of all, so going beyond the call of duty. So going beyond the call of duty, I don't know that I've ever felt that my call of duty has bled into the rest of my life when it comes to that. I think that I try to be clear with, let me course correct that a little bit. In the beginning, I learned not to do things like start opening up communication via text and WhatsApp with clients, because that was starting to get too much. So now I have it set up that they can email me. That's not a problem. I don't mind. And in fact, I have, with emails, I can kind of sit down and choose when I'm going to respond to them. And I found that so far clients are fairly respectful of that. So I will sometimes receive an email if they've had something come up in between sessions that they're excited to share, or maybe that's a part of their accountability that they've said that they're going to send me an email when they've done something, that's something that they've come up with that would be helpful. So I've had them do that. I've also had clients reach out and ask if I would recommend any particular books or podcasts that I've been really careful to say, these are things that have helped me, so I'm not recommending them for them specifically. It's not like a homework assignment, but they'll just usually ask, what do I read, or what do I listen to, or what would I share with them? So that is what comes up, I would say, beyond the formal coaching session. And then about goals themselves, I think, and I don't know if this is what you asked, but it kind of came up for me as you were speaking. It's really important within the life coaching space as well to be obviously very clear as part of the agreement about what coaching is, what coaching isn't, so that they're aware that it's not therapy, that it's not consulting, mentoring, etc. But also, if they're working on a specific area and there are things that come up outside of that, and they will, I try to be as aware of making sure that there's a level of permission before we start venturing. So just because we're doing life coaching doesn't mean that I can start being really start exploring into other areas. Nosy, yeah, voyeuristic or that type of thing. Yeah, nosy. It doesn't give me permission to start venturing into other areas of their life. So I always make sure that we're aligned when we start kind of expanding beyond what specific goal that they said that they wanted to achieve.
And sorry for the very convoluted question that I asked, because it was like 10 questions in one. So I realize that. Sorry, Magda brain. Perhaps the bleach and the blue is getting to me. Smita, going beyond the call of duty. Tell us about your experience.
Going beyond the call of duty. So it's like in executive coaching, there are a couple of stakeholders, right? Like in life coaching, we know it's just that client. I think as coaches, we need to be bold enough to challenge them to take accountability of whatever they have, design themselves as the call of action. So asking those questions which will help them to be accountable, knowing there is no one else. It's entirely with that person. They're not going to be answerable to anyone. So that's just coming up for me.
Ujjwal, tell
Yeah.
us about working with these multiple stakeholders. Who do you tell what?
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, I think the confidentiality of the content is guaranteed at all the times. Not anything goes out anywhere. Even notes taking is concerned. That also is. So my practice is that I don't take notes. So that has compelled me to listen well. Okay, and if I have to, then I take the client's permission, and just for the reference, I pass it over to them, or I request them to take notes. If something which is important to them, they will take it. If something important to me, I will take it, but that's very, very rare. I have seen some coaches who are not listening. They are as if they are writing some exam. Everything that the client is saying, they will at least write 50% of it on their notes, and that is a very bad practice. It questions your presence, it questions your listening, and you don't know which question you are going to ask because you are not listening. Then you are reading. Okay, so I avoid taking notes. So I have no option but to listen. Okay, and client will, even the actions, number of actions that the client need to take, they need to write, and then there's a specific format in which they will maintain the records. And in order to discuss the progress, what I propose, and it has worked amazingly well, so I'm sharing with a lot of happiness, that if you have a 12 sessions contract, then how can you have at least midpoint and endpoint check-ins? So if there are every 4 sessions, you have something known as progress discussion. Do not use the word review, because review has a very negative connotation. So progress discussion, in which again the stakeholders who pushed this client into coaching, which accidentally he or she has started enjoying now. Okay, then they will talk about that this was where we were, this is where we are, this is how we are progressing towards the goal, this is how the needle is moving, this is needle is not moving, and stuff like that. Nowadays a lot of digital tools are also available in which somebody can make the progress known digitally also. But coach, yeah, if there are any significant patterns or insights that are emerging, then coach can share with the sponsors with permission from the client. So
Okay,
that's
so
that's
sorry.
Mhm.
In the midpoint check-in, so it's all stakeholders, including the client.
Yes, and client
Okay.
will talk about that this is where we were with reference to these goals. If any personal goals that the client has taken up and coach has agreed, that may not be discussed, but the organization specified goals that are discussed. So this is how the needle is moving, not moving, this is the support that I may need, this is where I'm stuck, this is where I'm moving forward. So everything is described by the client except the content of the discussion between the two. And if, as long as client has permitted, coach can also share his or her observations, which is only to make the process better, and also call out for support.
Okay. I'm going to ask some. I'm going to try to ask some quick questions, and then just if you could all unmute yourself and just kind of jump in with an answer, because we have been live for an hour, and I'm conscious of people have lives, and I don't want to keep us too long. It's my morning. It's your evening. So, is communicating with clients on WhatsApp appropriate? Yes or no?
Yes, subject to if it is okay for the organization and okay for the client, coach should be
Okay.
serving the need.
Okay. Is it appropriate to interact with your clients on social media?
I've had clients add me on social media, and when I say interact, I mean if they're on Instagram and they post something, I'll like it, but I wouldn't set an appointment or change an appointment on social media. So,
Of course.
yeah, those would be my limitations.
Maybe we can
Is it
connect on social. Sorry.
Sorry, go.
No, I was just saying that maybe we can connect, of course, but not use any of the information or knowledge that we have about them or that their situation to comment in social media.
Yeah, privacy is super important.
And I want to add that I do not, so if they connect with me, that's fine, but I wouldn't go and connect with them because I view that as being a little bit intrusive, personally.
Yeah.
If there is a sponsor involved in the coaching, is it appropriate for the coach to speak with the sponsor about the coaching without the coach being present?
Coach being present or client being present?
Sorry. Wow. Yeah. Time for second coffee. Client being present. Thank you. Good listening skills, Ujjwal.
Yeah. So yeah, married for 25 years. So perhaps my listening skills have been brushed like that. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think if there is anything which may not breach any confidentiality and any of the observations or any of the, because see, sponsor is paying, so they are also a part of that whole process. So if there is anything which does not breach any confidentiality, but any of the insights, any of the observations that coach or any patterns that coach would like to share with the sponsor, again with the confidentiality intact, one can share, but content, never ever. Context, maybe, as long as it is helping the organization with reference to the goals that they are set up.
Love that. Context, maybe. Content, no. Very,
Yeah.
very clear. Is it okay for the client to request a recording of the coaching conversation?
So, at all times, no. But if client chooses to record and if they want to send over, that's totally their choice. But a coach will not invite or never, never even nudge for that. And the best that the coaching conversations are not recorded. That's the best thing to do, because you do not know that these days anything that you record, you may not know where it goes. Hashtag Pegasus.
Oh my God, Ujjwal. Tracy, you said you looked like you were.
Yeah, I've had a few clients request to record a session, and I'll allow it, but I would never suggest it myself either.
Except for evaluative purposes when you are training as a coach, which you need in order to apply for your coaching credential. But then we have to delete it, of course, after you do it. Yes, Mita?
No.
Oh, you unmuted, so I just wanted to ask. Okay. Can any coach be a life coach and an executive coach? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yes.
Big yes.
Okay.
Big yes. And that's the reason, Magda, I also want to iterate something here, that's the reason ICF do not label as life coach or executive coach or something like that. It's about ACC, PCC, MCC. So, which means that if you are an ICF trained coach and credentialed coach, you are capable to coach an executive or an individual, anybody. So, it's just how you want to orient yourself and create your profile accordingly.
Wonderful. Yeah. That's such a brilliant thought. Yeah.
So we're going to finish up unless any other comments come in. And in your closing statements, I would love to hear about, since all coaching ends up being life coaching, and as we explored today, there are some differences, of course. Ujjwal, with your experience in companies, I assume that, maybe falsely, but I assume that when you do your coach training programs, you do bring those experiences in. And
yes.
Tracy and Smita, I know that the coach training program that you are starting in a couple of weeks is focused specific. I need a second coffee. The program you are starting in a couple of weeks is specifically focused on life coaching. So I also assume you're going to bring those experiences in. But I'm keen to hear kind of when you do the coach training, what makes your program what makes it more focused or special? I don't know what I want to say. How do you bring yourself and your experiences into that program, and how will learners benefit from that? And I'm going to start with Ujjwal, please.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you for that, Magda. I think all my entire course is based on what I say as experiential side of coaching. So anything which is not practiced, anything which is not tried out, is not taught. And any concepts that, any models, any tools, any frameworks that we co-create our learning space for is has a connotation of experience. So something which is learned can be tried immediately. Okay, so we bring the corporate experiences, we bring the and all that, not only great experiences but also worst experiences. So you learn at with low cost of trying out yourself, and also about life coaching. And I can also say that one of the great space that is coming up is also in life coaching space, is family coaching space, because we are becoming a lonely society. And I would invite everyone to refer to this book written by the current Surgeon General of the United States, Dr. Vivek Murthy. He was also Surgeon General in the times of President Obama. And he has written an amazing book called Together, that how loneliness has significant health impact as much as having 15 cigarettes a day. So we we will soon have life coaches who are invited just to talk, just to have a conversation, because people are highly connected online but disconnected offline. So I guess life coaches better work on their listening skills every day, because soon you will have paying clients who will call you just to listen to their story.
That makes
Thank
me
you
really
for
sad,
bringing up
actually.
that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say thank you for bringing up that book, because I actually listened to a podcast with that author and I was really, really blown away, and I'd forgotten about it. So I'm going to look that one
That's good.
up.
Sure.
Yeah. So Magda, your question around what we bring into the sessions, if we have like a life coaching lens, I would say. Absolutely, I would say that we bring our experiences in. Also our challenges. Like I try to be really upfront with the cohort in my own vulnerabilities. There's things that come up within coaching sessions as well, because I learn from every session, and then I invite learning from my learning, if that makes sense. And I love to how, Ujjwal, you talked about this family coaching. So when we're looking at the program within the life coaching context, then we're still looking at the competencies. We're not short-changing anything
Yes.
or not addressing anything. But when we look at, let's say, systemic coaching, we're not just looking at the organization, but we're looking at what are the systems in clients' lives, whether they be family, whether they be organization, whether it be their community. It could be any number of things. Their relationships as constellations, perhaps. Leadership we would still look at, but then we're looking at it more about how are you a leader in your own life? What is personal leadership? So it's, again, looking at all of the same things, but just widening the lens a little bit more.
Yeah.
Smita, anything to add?
So it's going to be an amazing program. It's going to have, of course, the coaching process of the ICF will be covered, and like Tracy said, it's going to be more. It'll be more broadened. It'll have systemic. It'll be about good communication skills, how important it is listening. So all that plus what we bring with our own experiences, personal experiences. Yeah.
It makes me think that maybe our next little live should be on what is systemic coaching, because as we've been talking today, what's been coming up for me a lot is there's so many systems that we're all a part of. And just like all coaching is life coaching, all good coaching, I think, is systemic coaching.
Yes.
I don't know. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Peter Hawkins and how he spoke about that in one of his webinars, that you're from the very first session, you should be bringing in the client systems. And I think he actually brought us through a meditation in that webinar, where you start thinking of all the people that you're touching, and all the people, touching maybe is the wrong word, but all the people in our own lives, and then all of the people whose lives are affected by them. So it's something that I try to keep in mind as well whenever I'm talking to a person, is what systems are they bringing in with them.
Cool. Well, I'll see you here another time. We'll talk about systemic. All right. Well, I'm like to close, if that's okay with everyone. This was super informative, but also at the same time gave me more questions than answers. But that's a good thing, right? That's what coaching is all about. It's about asking the questions that make you think, that make you go beyond where you are today. And that's exciting. So I'm going to think about stuff a little bit afterwards. I hope that everyone who has attended or who is watching this later got something good out of it. And I hope to see you in class, at webinars, etc., etc., etc. We do lots of stuff around coaching and leadership because that's what we live and breathe and love. And if that's something that you live and breathe and love even a little bit, please come to a Coacharya and interact with us in this stuff. And someone is asking about the book reference. I believe they're talking about the book that Ujwal talked about earlier, and that is Together. And it's by it's Vivek Murthy? No.
Yeah,
What's his first name?
Yeah, Dr. Vivek Murthy. I have just mentioned in the Murthy Murthy.
There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, please check out that book. And if you want to see the lighter side of coaching and more of me and Tracy, we have a podcast. It's called Talking to Myself. And it's all about self-coaching. And we're a little less proper than we were today. So if anybody wants to check out that one, that's on all the different platforms too. Hey, you gotta brand yourself a little bit. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for attending today and for staying with us for an hour and 15 minutes. That's awesome. I was fully expecting that in 20 minutes we will cover all coaching is life coaching, the end. So I'm very happy that there's so much more to this. And if you are not a coach yet, or you know someone who isn't a coach and you want them to train, please refer us. We do have referral bonuses, etc. And also the trainers that you see here on the screen are pretty phenomenal and amazing. And all three of them run coach training programs. So join us, tell your friends, and see you here next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, Smita, Magda. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.